In this video, I will be going over the Okta Org2Org configuration. I will be going through this pretty straightforward, so there will be no additional fluff. This is going to be a basic implementation of an org-to-org configuration. So the idea is that with an org-to-org configuration, you want one Okta tenant to be allowed resources from a different Okta tenant. So the resources that I want to provide will be coming from this right Okta tenant. This will be my hub tenant, and on the left will be my spoke tenant. So as you can see, my spoke tenant is going to have the dev URL, and my hub tenant will have the trial URL. Another main difference is that the spoke tenant will be your identity provider that will be providing identities to the service provider, which is the hub. Okay, without further ado, let me go ahead and show you how this is configured. So we'll start here on the right, which is the service provider tenant. We're going to go through the dashboard and navigate to security, identity provider. So this is going to be the configuration for my connection to this identity provider or my spoke. So we're going to choose SAML 2.0, click next. Okay, also, by the way, I have this guide here, so be sure to wait till the end of the video to see where you can get this guide. Okay, so from here, you can go fill out the name here. So in this case, I'll just call this spoke tenant. And my IDP username, I will leave that as default, so that usually gets pre-populated. But since this is a virtual environment, it might not, so I have that listed elsewhere. I'll copy and paste it there. And from the IDP user URI and the IDP single sign-on URL and the IDP signature certificate, these are going to have to be filled, but this is going to come from our IDP or our spoke tenant. So in order to do that, we'll go back to our IDP. Remember, my IDP is the dev environment. We're going to expand applications, click applications, browse the app catalog, and search for org2org. So this is within Okta's integration network. So we're going to go ahead and add integration. Leave this as default. The base URL is going to be filled out by your service provider's URL. So you can do that by clicking your username on the top right and copy to clipboard and pasting it into this base URL. Leave everything else as default. Click next. Oops, please. Okay, you do need the HTTPS behind it, so that is a requirement. There we go. And from here, again, we're still in our IDP or our spoke tenant. We're going to click the SAML 2.0 radial button. From here, scroll down to View Setup Instructions. Click that, and we'll navigate to step 6. Now, this is a good guide if you wanted to do this on your own, but it might be a little bit lengthy and too much information for a basic configuration. So we're going to need only step 6, where we can copy the issuer URI, the SSO URL, as well as get this certificate that we can import on our service provider side. So let's go ahead and download the certificate and begin copying and pasting this over. So first we'll paste our URI over, and finally our SSO URL. We'll go to Browse Files on our service provider side, our hub. Look for that certificate and upload it. There we go. And we'll scroll down, click Finish. And from this page, we'll get the ACS URL, or Assertion Consumer Service URL, and the audience URI. So we can close this setup SSO guide out. and scroll down, and we're going to copy the information that's been provided to us in our service provider into our IDP, as well as this URI to our IDP. And we'll scroll down, leave everything as default, click done. And from here, we'll just assign the users that we want access to our service provider. So in my case, I'll just use Okta Administrator 1. Save and go back and click done. And we'll need to provision. And to do that, we'll click the provisioning tab, configure API integration, enable API integration, and fill out the security token. We get that security token from our service provider by going to security, scrolling down to API, click our tokens tab, create token, and we'll just call this org2org. This API token will allow you to have access to the service provider. So we can test the API credentials here just to make sure that it's connecting, and that's good. We'll click save here. And this is our final step. So now you can see that in the provisioning tab, this is filled out. And its default is this 2-app, and it's highlighted. So we have this 2-app configuration. We're going to click edit here and enable these first 3 checkboxes to allow users to be created, update the attributes, and to deactivate the users. We're going to go ahead and click save, and that's it. So in order to test this, this is, mind you, this is our spoke, which is the users that we want to give access from our main or our central hub, which is our right. So we're going to log out of our spoke. And just to give it a little bit extra flair, we can add an application that the spoke can have access to. So from our hub, we'll go back to applications, click Salesforce, and we can assign, oops, I actually had this assigned earlier, so don't mind that. We can go ahead and assign to people, and we'll see that our Okta administrator is there. And then we'll click save and go back. Click done. And then we'll log into our spoke with our administrator. And as you can see, we have an Okta Org2Org tile. This Salesforce tile is not going to be the same Salesforce tile as found in our hub environment. This is its own tile from its own environment. So in order to access the hub environment from the spoke, we click Okta Org2Org, and it's going to ask you to set up a security method. So get a push notification. So I had this configured earlier, so we're going to go ahead and sign in. And there you go. You now have access to the hub environment from your spoke environment. So this user now has access to the hub resources, such as this salesforce.com that we just provisioned. There you go. And if you're curious to see this video in Word format, you can check out the description, and there will be a link below where you can access this configuration. Thanks for watching.